Welcome to First Pitch for Monday, May 20th. I'm Marco D'Angelo, sitting in for the Prez, and joined today by my partner in crime today, a little later here in Las Vegas on the Las Vegas Sports Line, Dave Cokin. Dave, how you doing this morning?
Just fine. Still scouring today's baseball schedule and getting close to pulling the trigger on one game, and we're going to talk about all of them today, so you might get an idea of what that game is at some point.
Absolutely. And Dave, we'll start things off with the New York Mets playing host to Washington. And just before we went on the air, looking at this one, the Mets haven't really officially decided who they're putting up there. They're going to be up against it because they are going to be facing Pat Corbin for Washington. And you got to say, for the season, the offseason acquisition of Pat Corbin has proved to be a good one for Washington. He is pitching great baseball. He has he's made 9 starts this year, Dave, and 8 of the 9 starts, he's gone into the 6th inning or further, and he's allowed 3 runs or less. You can't ask much more out of a starting pitcher.
No, and the Mets are a complete mess right now, coming off just a disastrous series against the Marlins. I put the opinion out yesterday on Twitter. I think Mickey Callaway is going to get fired today. I really do. Maybe that's why they haven't announced the starter yet, but he's going to be gone, so why wait? I mean, at this point, there's just no way to back the Mets. Nationals came up short last night, but made a good comeback in that game. Actually, no, I've got that backwards. The Nationals, the Nationals ended up losing that baseball game, but not a bad weekend for them. They're playing a little better baseball. And they did get to Leicester on Saturday. That was the game I was thinking of, actually. Corbin, I can't disagree with anything you said about Corbin. He's been absolutely terrific. 6 of his last 7 starts have been well above average. And I don't know what the Mets are going to do. My guess is that Font will be involved somewhere in this game, but I don't know where. It's kind of a game I just threw out. There's no price on it right now anyway. So might look back at it later on once we know what's going to be out there for the Mets. But only if the Nationals are cheap enough, I suppose I might want to take a shot with it at like 125 or something like that. But I have a feeling it might be more than that.
Yeah, I think with the way Corbin's pitching, I would love to get a 125. Dave, would you consider this one on the first 5? Because once Corbin leaves the game, how confident are you in the bullpen?
None. 0 confidence in the bullpen. It's the worst in baseball, and that's saying something because there's some bad bullpens out there. But, that's the only way I'd look at it. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be priced out for me anyway. So
right, and especially first 5, you have to lay that extra 10, 15 cents I'll put on top of it. Moving to the next one, and we get Philadelphia, Jake Arrieta. First time he gets to go back to Wrigley since pitching there. Do you think, this is one of those angles that I used to like back in the day, before you had free agents moving all over the place, when me and you were young pups, guys would sign with the team and, they pretty much would be there most of their careers. But the way guys bounce around now, do you think it's such a big deal when they go back and face their old team?
I think it might be if he's in good form. If a pitcher's in good form and facing his former team, that, now you've got a revenge motivation and a guy who's in good form. The problem is, where's the good form for Arrieta? It's just not showing at all. He's been a below-average pitcher this year. The numbers aren't good, and it's not one of those things where the ERA is misleading. Actually, his analytics are even worse than his ERA. He's just a 3 or a 4 right now, and that's about it. And the problem with Yu Darvish is which one's going to show up. Now, I mean, the early season Darvish overall has been pretty bad, but his last start he was absolutely brilliant and didn't walk anybody, and all of a sudden, that Darvish is showing up. I don't really want to go again. My overall numbers indicate the Phillies are a pretty good side here. But I put a lot of that last start from Darvish, and the light appears to have gone on for him, and I don't think I want to go against him right now.
Yeah, his problem, Dave, as you said early in the year, mainly it was control. His walks were unbelievable in 42 innings, even with that last outing that you talked about where he went into the 6th inning and struck out 11. I will put the asterisk up on that. It was against the underachieving Cincinnati Reds, which we know metrics-wise, how they're the team that's such a mystery in run differential. But you look at it, 33 walks in 42 innings. That's what definitely has led to that 1.61 whip. And again, playing last night, traveling back home, you've got that that disadvantage for the Cubs. For me, if I had to pull the trigger here, I've got a small lean to Philly. But as you said, Arrieta's not been good in his last 2 outings, and that really is a concern. So we'll probably find some better things on the board for tonight. In one of those games, the next game up is Atlanta at San Francisco. And Dave, right now, the Braves, they're playing their best ball of the year. I think they've won 7 of their last 9 games. And they've got a pitcher on the mound, and Mike Soroka has just been unbelievable this year for the Braves. Definitely been the ace of that staff so far. How do you like him heading to the West Coast? I'm
not going against Soroka, and I've mentioned several times on the air, in print, and right here on First Pitch that this is the number 1 pitcher on the Braves. Soroka's legit. He's done nothing but put up good starts, 6 in a row for him. He's been outstanding. And he's starting to get priced that way. The interesting thing is, it's actually been, I want to check my screen right now, there's been some money coming in on the dog in this game. And the Braves are now, looks like, find anywhere from 131 to 138 going across the board, so mid-130s. Andrew Suarez, back up to the majors for the Giants. He really wasn't all that bad last year, but I'm not enamored with his stuff, and he actually has not been particularly good at the minor league level this year. So I would look at the Soroka side here, but I'm not wild about taking teams in their first game on a West Coast swing. And Atlanta coming out of the series over the weekend with Milwaukee, hard-fought series, having to travel. Not a great spot for them. So, excuse me, I think I'm going to avoid this one because I don't like laying a price in that spot.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 stats here that are interesting. One, you talked about Suarez. They called him up from AAA Sacramento. In 6 starts down there, he had a record of 2-3 and an ERA of 6.33. So this is
even by PCL standards, where the numbers can get a little skewed. Those aren't good.
No, absolutely. And this is not a call up because they've got a hot prospect that's pitching his lights out down in the minors. You talked about Atlanta going on to that West Coast, and generally I can understand that, but I actually have a stat on Atlanta. When they go on the road after playing 3 or more consecutive games at home, since the start of last season, Dave, 12-4, that first
Pretty
game
good.
on the road trip. So that bodes well for them. Definitely, this is Atlanta or nothing for me. Moving to this next one, pretty unique pitching matchup here because we know what Paddock has done, Chris Paddock, for the Padres. Finally got a dose of reality in his last start. Maybe the stage was just a little bit too big going up against Kershaw. He had his worst outing of this season. Didn't get out of the 5th inning in that one. Gave up 6 runs, but only 3 were earned. But in his 8 starts, the Padres have been 6-2 because he has just pitched his absolute lights out. But on the flip side, and I don't know if, I didn't see this coming. Are you surprised on the way Luke Weaver's pitching so far this year? Because when he was with St. Louis, I wasn't that impressed. I know that, he was a good prospect and all, but he's pitching much better now for the Cardinals for Arizona than he did for the Cardinals. He's
pitching much better, and we'll put that on the pitching coach and maturity because he's always had the talent. It just wasn't coming together for him in St. Louis. He's gotten to a new location, and he's pitching with a lot more confidence, much better command, and not being prone to big innings. When he was in St. Louis, he would blow up. Something would go wrong, and that would be it. The floodgates would open. So that's the maturity aspect. But it's a tough game. Paddock was very vocal after the start against the Dodgers, and he basically said, watch out next time. So you might be looking at a game where runs are tough to come by tonight because Weaver has pitched well. The Padres' offense is kind of going to sleep, and they're under 500 for the first time this season. And I don't want to go against Paddock, so it's tough in this ballpark because you never really get a bargain as far as over and unders are concerned. But seven with the under juiced is probably enough to keep me off. For 7.5, I'd probably be looking at the under in this game. But this is the thing about baseball. There's so many games every day, even on Mondays where not everybody plays, and they each play 162 games. You don't have to force it. If you're not getting your preferred price, just move on to the next game. That's all.
Absolutely, Dave. I want to throw one thing out at you on this game before we move to the next one. Now, we always talk about these rookies when they come up and how if they have any talent at all, they've got the advantage over the hitters first time through the league. That's an adage I've went with for years. Maybe I should say decades.
I don't think it matters much with Paddock.
Yeah. He's got such good stuff. And the point I was going to go with is this is going to be the second time Arizona has seen him. We'll start to see it. And that's what separates these young sensations that come up when they start going through the league the second and third time, if they continue that dominance. Is both you and I believe Paddock is the real deal. This kid's got great stuff, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But just throwing a little handicapping angle out there for our listeners whenever you are looking at these younger pitchers. Moving to the next one, hey, Dave, the Boston Red Sox, they're starting to make a little bit of a move. They're back in the hunt. I know they lost 2 out of 3 to Houston over the weekend, but this is a team that's playing much better baseball right now than they were earlier in the year, for sure. Lost a little steam with Houston, but no shame in that, Dave. The Astros are playing the best baseball right now of anybody. I mean, this team, they've got pitching, they've got hitting. It's on a nightly basis, and they're putting up a ton of runs. So I'm not so concerned about the weekend loss. You do have David Price coming back off of the injured list, first start, and they actually held him for this series rather than bringing him in against the Houston series. Yeah, well, the situation one, those bats, I think, have a lot to do with it. But two, they said with his, I think, what do you have, tendonitis or something? They didn't want to risk him pitching in off weather, that you can get. You never know what you're going to get day to day in Boston this time of the year. At least in Toronto, you got a controlled environment with the dome and stuff. So, do you like David Price here in this one?
No, not at $2 or $2.16 or whatever it is. Edwin Jackson for the Blue Jays. It's a holiday, and some of these organizations do some weird things. So it's probably going to be a pretty good sized crowd today with a holiday day game in Toronto, and they choose today to give Vlad Guerrero Jr. a day off.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It's not in the lineup.
No.
That makes no sense to me. No, look, it's the right side's favored, but I have no interest at that price.
With the price like this, and I agree with you, do you ever consider a run line on the road because you do guarantee yourself those 9 at-bats?
I really don't like, I'm not a runs line guy at -1.5. In baseball, to me, if you're looking for value in runs lines, +1.5 is actually a better bet. And I'm not interested in the Blue Jays at +1.5. It's not like hockey where things have changed now and you get goaltenders being pulled with 2.5 minutes to go. And there's a really good chance that if you're up 1, you're going to get up 2 late. And laying 1.5 in a hockey game is actually, in my opinion, become a pretty good bet if you're on a favorite, or at least creating a -1 play. But not so much in baseball, and especially on the road. It's really tough to win on the road. So, no, I just bypass games like this. The only time I'll consider him is maybe in a big truck parlay, but I've got to find somebody I like just as much to fill the parlay. And, it's not one of those get-rich parlays. It's you might get even money, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. You're turning two favorites basically into an even money bet, and I have done that several times myself, my friend. Heading to the next one, the Oakland A's coming off a sweep of the Tigers. They had the bats out in the one game there, 17-3. They opened that series up.
I lost that game. I had the Tigers in that game, so that was. I can't complain about a bad beat on that one, I guess, huh?
No, at least you did. Dave, to be honest with you, and I know people are gonna laugh at when you say something like that because you get a lot of shit when you lose a game by a lopsided score. I'd rather lose a game, get blown out, than to lose it by missing a half a point by a missed free throw or something at the end, or a 3-pointer. They all count the same.
I had a total the other day, and it lost on 2 passed balls in the same at bat.
Oh no.
I'd rather just say, okay, I made a bad pick. And I don't think it was. I'd probably make the same play today. I mean, the Tigers were coming up a really bad series against Houston. They've got the Turnbull kid on the mound who's been pitching very good baseball. And he just got into trouble and gave up a grand slam to somebody who I'm spacing out on who hit it right now. And that was the end of that. It happens. Just, they don't charge you by the run.
No, they don't. In that game that you lost with the 2 passed balls, what language did the cat hear while you were watching that game?
None. I just kind of shook my head. It was just one of those. Saturday wasn't a very good day for me. Yeah. Sunday was a lot better.
Yeah.
Saturday, I had 2 plays in baseball and lost them both. And I had a horse that I thought, my 12 horse at the Preakness, I thought was really perfectly positioned heading to the final turn. And it's like, okay, fire.
He got the trip. He wanted. Yeah, no question about it.
Jose Ortiz had him right there, and it turned out, I just was on the wrong horse. It's as simple as that, because he ended up going nowhere and ended up 10th. So it was just a lousy day. But then yesterday, that's the beauty of this. You have a bad day, and the next day it can come out, and everything can come up roses. I had 2 underdog plays yesterday. They both got there, and that's the nature of the business. Sometimes you suck. And sometimes you're a genius.
Absolutely. And Saturday was not my day either. I did win my baseball game, Dave, but horse racing did not go well for me. And then
the best horse. Listen, the best horse won.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
This was a no excuse race. If you had War of Will, you were on the right horse, and if you had anybody else, you were not on the right horse. It's as simple as that. That was a really beautiful race. I'm looking forward to the Belmont because I want to see who's going to run. The race won't have any interest to casual bettors, but for people who kind of really get into the Triple Crown races, I think the Belmont's going to be fascinating once we know who's in the field.
Well, Dave, you know me as being a horse owner. I tweeted out immediately after the Preakness, and it was directed right at Gary West, the owner of Maximum Security. I said, You've run your mouth for 2 weeks about how you got robbed in the Derby.
Which he didn't.
Okay, exactly. Now you've got your chance. This would be the best thing for horse racing, okay? Because there is no Triple Crown, but the buzz to put Maximum Security in the Belmont versus War of Will, winner take all, baby. The chips are on the table. Put your money where your mouth is now, and let's see if he shows up. That would make me ecstatic, and it would make the Belmont the most watched Belmont without a Triple Crown on the line. Absolutely. All right, moving on to the next one. As we started with the Oakland A's, how they played that series against Detroit. Now they're going in to play Cleveland. Cleveland, all of a sudden, Dave, like the Red Sox, finally woke up.
Reds woke up. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. They played Baltimore, though.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They did. They played a bad team that can't pitch. And so I'm not ready to, I look at the Red Sox lineup and it's like, okay, well, it was just a matter of time before this team started to rake. There's too many good bats in that lineup. I'm not sure you can say that about Cleveland. And so they had a good weekend with the bats, but I'm not ready to anoint them as suddenly the team that's going to make a run at the Twins. If they do, it's still going to be in their pitching. And they've got one of their real good ones on the mound tonight in Carlos Carrasco. He should be able to cool off the A's. But the A's are coming in with a lot of momentum. And Brett Anderson is a very difficult pitcher to handicap because he's very inconsistent. And he's a lefty, which still, in my opinion, is what you want against the Indians. I think this is a Cleveland team that you've just got a better chance with a crafty left-hander than you do with a righty.
Yeah, I look at this one, and as far as Cleveland goes, as I said, I put the asterisk on the winning right now because it was against Baltimore. And then you mentioned Carrasco. He was brilliant in his last 2 starts, Dave, but both of those starts came against the White Sox. So I'm a little bit semi-asterisk there as well.
It's tough to say because the White Sox, depending on what day of the week it is, can have looks at if Anderson and Moncada are hitting, and a couple of other guys, well, they're almost always hitting now. If Abreu and a few of the other guys chip in, the White Sox can put some runs on the board. I think they've been the highest scoring team in baseball from the 7th inning on. I'm glad they weren't yesterday because I had Toronto, but the White Sox might be marginally better than I thought. So I'm not going to just dismiss those wins. And as for Oakland, I still, it was a good weekend, but I'm just not sold on this team. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they have definitely had problems, on the road all season long.
Yeah.
You're looking at them. Dave, I got a problem with this next game. You got to help me here, and that problem is I know it's the Yankees, okay, and I know they're playing Baltimore, but Dave, I couldn't bet J.A. Happ at minus 200 with your money. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. That's not saying I'm running out and wanting to play Baltimore in this game, but I just can't look at this number in any conscience with J.A. Happ and lay it.
No, neither can I. Although I will say this. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter who's on the mound right now for the Yankees. They are playing some ball. I mean, they're just playing tremendous baseball. And you would think that they've got it in the back of their minds that they didn't exactly do real well at the start of the season with the Orioles. So they might not overlook this baseball team, as can often be the case. Andrew Castro hasn't been bad lately for the Orioles. Actually, on my grading scale that I use for pitchers, he's actually been a little above average this year, which is surprising. I don't know if I believe it or not, but the numbers are what the numbers are. He's pitched well in 4 of his last 5 starts. So, I mean, you can make a case that there's actually a little value on the Orioles, but I'm not even thinking about getting in the Yankees' way right now. They just the big price means, okay, well, I'm just not playing that. The price is a little too high, but you don't always have to take the value just because it's there.
Absolutely, Dave. And next game here, you got Seattle, who was an absolute train wreck. They got on the winning track yesterday, and even when I made the play, Dave, that's one of those ones, and those are the ones that usually win. When you walk up to the window and put the wager in, I had Seattle, and even as I'm saying the words, it's like, am I really betting Seattle here? But my number said to do it, and we did it. They got the win for us. Minnesota had been playing so well. But now Seattle goes on the road. Is this the same team that had that amazing start to the season?
Yeah, which is just this fluky start. But the real Seattle has since shown up, a team that can't manufacture runs. They live and die by the homer. So if they're facing a pitcher who's not giving up home runs, that's a problem. They are one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen, literally. I'm not hyping that. I mean, they are so far ahead of everybody else in errors made. It's kind of comical. I think it's double digits over everybody else. And they're not very good against lefties anyway. And so you've got a game here where, I mean, look, it's tough to go up and look at the Rangers as a good-sized favorite. But Mike Minor's their best pitcher. Seattle's traveling in, playing really bad baseball. I think you can make the case for Minor being the right type of pitcher to face Seattle because he limits home runs. I don't have his numbers in front of me. Let me see if I can punch him up real quick. It'll only take a second.
He's given up 6 home runs this year and 58 in 2/3.
That's not bad at all.
No.
Thank you. You saved me some time on that one. So he's the right type of pitcher. And Mike Leake, Mike Leake is Mike Leake. Some days he's going to show up and be pretty tough, and some days he's not. He's a middle-of-the-road pitcher. He's actually been pretty good over his last 3. There's some misgivings on the Texas side. they're not much of a baseball team, and it's tough to lay a big price with them. But that's the only side I'd look at here. I know some money's shown for Seattle this morning. Line's down in the mid 140s now, but I don't agree with that money.
Yeah, for Texas and Mike Minor, as you said, he's been, their most consistent pitcher. As good as he's pitched for them this year, in his 9 starts, they're only 4-5 in those starts, and that's Texas being Texas, So I can't disagree with you. I'm just I'm looking at it I'm seeing like $1.45 out there. I'm not a big fan of laying $1.45 with Texas. So I
can't help that.
So we'll see what happens if we find some value anywhere else. We're not going to find any value in the next one, that's for sure. You got the White Sox at Houston. Houston returning home, just sizzling play right now. They had their 10-game winning streak snapped yesterday, and it took the Red Sox and Chris Sale to do it. And the Red Sox had to come from behind in that game. You look at them, you've got Brad Peacock on the mound for them, and you're laying 260 with Brad Peacock. That's a really big number. No value there. Do you see anything in this one?
No, I really don't know what the White Sox are going to do here anyway. Ryan Burr is going to be an opener in the game. He's not a starting pitcher, so he's going to, I assume, maybe get one through the order, and that's it. I'm not interested in the White Sox, no, the price is it's high enough to make me just skip it and say, okay, next.
I agree with you. And speaking of next, that next is the Minnesota Twins, and they are at the LA Angels. Both teams, can score some runs. Minnesota, as we said, they have just been putting runs up. Prior to yesterday being held to 4 runs, Dave, their 4 previous games going most recent, 18, 7, 11, 8. They're putting up some numbers, and they've been getting pitching this year. Which has surprised you the most, the offense or the pitching this year for Minnesota?
I like the offense. I wasn't sure about the pitching, and I'm still not sure about the pitching.
And one of those guys goes today. Odorizzi, this is a guy that his last 3 starts. Now, the last one, he gave up 3 runs. He went 5 1/3. But the 2 starts before that, 13 innings, he didn't give up a run. One of them was against Detroit, but the other start was in New York against the Yankees, and you know the way the Yankees have been scoring runs. So this guy's been getting it done. 9 starts this season, ERA of 2.62, a whip of 1.06 on the season. Last 3 has been even better, as we said, 1.47, 0.98. He's going against Taylor Cole for the Angels.
It's Felix Pena's start, and they open for him. So Taylor Cole's going to pitch an inning or so, and then it's going to be Pena, who's actually been pretty good. And I mean, he's not a stud. Look, if he was a stud, he'd be starting his own games.
Right.
But he's been pretty good for the most part. And actually, some of the analytics, if you look at the analytics comparison of this game, Pena's actually at better numbers than Odorizzi. There's some flukiness to Odorizzi. Part of it, I don't know whether to regard it that way, because one of the things that Odorizzi did this year was he changed his stride at the suggestion of the Minnesota pitching coach. And it's really worked out very well for him. But you wonder if the real Odorizzi is going to start to materialize at some point, because he's always been a 4 or a 5 starter, and all of a sudden he's pitching like a 2. And the metrics still suggest that this is a little bit fluky. So I'm kind of in wait-and-see mode on Odorizzi. And as for the Angels, Pena's a guy who I think the market is actually underrating a little bit, or at least was. Look what happened to the line in this game.
Yeah, definitely the money has come in on the Angels.
Yeah, a lot of money. And this was sharp money that came into the Angels this morning. My natural inclination is to look at the Minnesota side as the value now, but then I made my number on the game, and I came up with the Angels as favorites. So, and part of that is based on the analytics involving Pena and the analytics involving Odorizzi. So, for me, it was a case where I think I might have played the Angels as home dogs, but now they're not home dogs anymore. So, again, it's a skip it for me. So, we're basically coming down for me to one game, which I'm going to give out here because I'm going to post it as a free play today. I'm not going to sell anything at WagerTalk or anyplace else for that matter. But I'll tell you about that free play once you're done commenting on this game.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say, on this one, Odorizzi is one of those guys that, when you see a guy that all of a sudden, has been a journeyman his whole career, basically, and then has that good year now, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. You talk about metrics and stuff, though, and we talked about home runs. Odorizzi does not give up home runs. He's only allowed 4 home runs this year in 9 starts, 48 innings pitched. So he has been very good in that sense. But I do like the way the Angels are, starting to, heat up. I think this is a team that they're not going to be a serious challenge to Houston, but I think they're the second best team clearly, in the AL West. Oakland at times can play, but the Angels, they've got a lineup that can score some runs. It's just the pitching is the concern there, especially the back end of the pitching for me. So for me, I'm looking at this one. I agree with you. I was looking at the Angels. I still might fire that. I know we lost some of that value, but I'm one of these guys. I'd rather have a winner at a bad number than a loser at a good number. If I feel that team's still the right side, and I lost a little bit of value, well, maybe I just didn't get to the market fast enough. This is, in essence, really where the number should be, market correcting itself. Dave, who do you got for that free play today?
I'm going to go ahead with the Twins. The Rangers. And it's not a game I'd ever consider making a 4% play on WagerTalk or higher. Mm-hmm. It's an action play. I like the matchup. I like the setup. I don't like the price all that much, so I'll make it a smaller play. But I think the Rangers have a real good chance to get past Seattle. The Seahawks, just not the Seahawks. The Mariners not playing well at all right now against the lefty. They've got bad numbers against lefties this year. I think Texas gets to the winner's circle tonight.
All right, good stuff there, Dave. Speaking of the show today, what do we got lined up today for Las Vegas Sports Line 2 to 3 Pacific time here in Las Vegas?
Well, one of the best out there, and the odds-making end of things is Chuck Esposito from Station Casinos and his house is Sunset Station. We'll go over everything with Chuck, NBA, NHL, the Preakness. I'm leaving out some stuff.
Hockey?
Oh, yeah. How can I leave out the NHL? So, yeah, plenty of stuff to cover with Chuck. We'll go over some of the stuff from a betting recap weekend perspective, and then we'll look ahead at what's coming up as well and get you some numbers there. We'll talk about the PGA as well. Brooks Koepka. Wow. I don't know if that was a real good result for the houses around town. Koepka was a popular play, and he got the money wire to wire, so we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Chuck how much he was rooting for DJ whenever it was getting a little tight, because that definitely had to have been a better result for the house had Koepka, choked that away.
Yeah. For a minute, it got down to one stroke, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? And then Johnson had a couple of bad shots, and Koepka just got it back together again, and the right guy won, that's for sure. I just I had him, and I sent this out to my subscribers. I said, I know Koepka's the right guy here, but this is where I get in trouble with insisting on getting the right price or a good price.
Yeah. And
I didn't put him on my tickets. The guy, Patrick Cantley, played very well, and I still think Cantley's got a real shot at the U.S. Open. And Xander Schauffele as well, but I didn't get any money. I lost a unit on the PGA this weekend.
See, there's the classic example, Dave. I'd rather have a winning ticket at a bad number than a losing ticket at a good number. And I know that's a debate, and sometime we're going to do one of the videos at the studio and talk about that, because that's a big thing with a lot of bettors. They have their numbers and they draw their line in the sand, and they'll throw away winners because of that, and sometimes it saves them money.
You also save a lot of losers that way too. So
but you know what? We're all gamblers, Dave. Do you ever remember those losers that found a way not to get on the card? We only remember the winners that didn't get there. That's the gambler's mentality.
The ones you didn't play don't cost you anything. So you can't have a bad beat in a game you didn't bet.
Well, this is true, Dave. All right, I will look forward to seeing you in a few hours in the studio, my friend. Good stuff as always. Check out the radio show daily here in Las Vegas, and we also post a podcast shortly after it, and it's really the last talk right up to, game time. I mean, we're an hour from tip-off and first pitch of most games.
And for those who obviously are not in Nevada and can't hear it locally, lvsportsnetwork.com. You can listen live or listen to it on tape after the show, but lvsportsnetwork.com.
Good stuff, Dave. I'll see you in a few. Good luck today, and thanks for joining the show as always. That's Dave Cokin with the first pitch. I'm Marco D'Angelo sitting in for the Prez. Yes, it's another holiday. Dave mentioned it. It was a holiday in Toronto and Canada, I should say, and that's why our beloved leader found another excuse for a day off. That guy has more excuses, Dave, than I've ever seen. All right.
He's a smart guy.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, buddy.
See ya.